Can you guess someone's personality from the shape of their handwriting? Is it possible to solve a police case by observing the body language of suspects and victims? For Marifer Centeno, a well-known Mexican graphologist, the answer is a resounding yes. In fact, her entire career has been built around her alleged ability to read between the lines, to uncover the hidden meaning in those things that don't seem to hide anything at first glance. But things began to go awry a few months ago, when a YouTuber named Octavio Arroyo, better known as Mr. Doctor, decided to expose her to everyone, labeling her as a charlatan, a fraud, and a mythomaniac. He stirred up the internet hornet's nest by dedicating a long video with the aim of proving step by step that Maryfer was not who she claimed to be in front of the cameras. He plainly wanted to show that her studies were not as they seem, that her knowledge had no scientific rigor, and that her magical formulas were nothing more than scams, that she had been elevated to a star status she did not deserve. The controversy was established, and from then on a judicial battle unfolded that escalated to the top of the Mexican government itself. Yes, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Many influential people on the internet often appear self-assured, convinced, and above all, convincing. The so-called influencers aim precisely to influence the decisions and opinions of their audience. They don't hide it at all, but oftentimes this is a breeding ground for more sinister characters to gain power. On the other side of the screen, there is often an audience that is susceptible to manipulation, which does not question what their idol says. That's when the problems start. Who really is Marifer Centeno? When did she start rising in the Mexican media? Who is her mother, and what is her real influence on the judiciary of that country? Who have been Maryfer's main opponents in that ring that television and social networks seem to have become? What is the anti-Maryfer law? What were the latest news? To answer these and other questions, let's delve into the dark case of Marifer Centeno, the Mexican who scammed everyone. Before we begin, I want to clarify that this case is being updated constantly. So, if perhaps some information that is later given changes, it can happen because these are current cases. Sometimes information is provided, then corrected multiple times. Those types of mistakes can happen. And we also want to ask you if you are interested in us continuing with this theme, with this particular case, because the trial is about to start, so there will surely be new information. If you want us to make a second part, write the word Graphology in the comments. If more than 200 people write Graphology, we will proceed with this case or switch to another. Well, with nothing else to say, let's get started. Maria Fernanda, you're born under the name of Maria Fernanda Centeno Muñoz on December 20th, 1986. Marifer knew what her future would be at a very early age. Her mother, Maria del Carmen Muñoz Barroso, was known as one of Mexico's first graphologists. It is relevant to clarify, for those who do not know, that graphology is the technique that analyzes a person's writing to obtain information about their personality and behavior. Marifer first studied law, like her mother and many of her ancestors who had also been lawyers. However, she quickly turned to the aforementioned graphology. In this way, she teamed up with her own mother, from whom she learned everything. Besides her profession, she also inherited the ability to speak freely and fluently on camera. Not much is known about the rest of her family. They keep a lower profile than her eldest daughter and her then wife. Miguel Angel Centeno Guadarrama, Marifer's father, has flown under the media radar. The young graphologist's parents desired a daughter, and Maria del Carmen had 2 miscarriages before their baby girl was born. 8 years later, the couple decided to get divorced. And according to interviews that Maryfer herself gave to various Mexican media, from that moment on, she would begin to suffer a series of unusual disorders. A few months after her parents' separation, Marifer had her first attack while she was at a friend's birthday party. She doesn't remember details of the moment, just that she felt like she was choking on food and everything had gone blurry. Minutes later, she was very dizzy and disoriented, as if suspended in a black and white movie. From then on, she spent her days seeing various doctors and specialists. The little girl's health seemed like a ticking time bomb, and no doctor was able to give a certain diagnosis. They ended up drawing her blood 6 times a day and finally prescribed her Tegretol, a medication that acts on the nervous system and is used in patients with epilepsy. But something wasn't quite right in Marifer's life, and she quickly realized she had to do something to escape the ordeal that her day-to-day life had become. When she started studying law and graphology guided by her mother, things seemed to get better. According to Maryfer herself, in the beginning, she wrote with tight letters, and that showed the emotional problems she was going through. When she decided to loosen up her writing, things started to flow better. She began to apply the knowledge of graphology to herself and, she says, observed the effects immediately. She began to feel clearer, more confident, and never suffered a seizure again. She progressively stopped taking Tegretl, and that specter of epilepsy seemed to dissipate. Meeting Carlos Marin at age 19 was significant. He was her first and only boyfriend. The attraction was instant. Since their marriage in 2015, Marin has been the cornerstone of her life. Throughout that decade, Marifer fulfilled her greatest desire to become a recognized graphologist and for her name to acquire the value of a brand. But, as we have said, she didn't do everything on her own. The influence of her mother was always upon her. The two of them, together, founded the Mexican College of Graphology, and from there they began to become known by offering affordable courses, talks, and conferences. According to mother and daughter, from the letter and analysis of people's gestures and faces, all kinds of things can be inferred. In old interviews that Maryfer's mother gave to television, she stated that her knowledge allowed her to know if someone was being unfaithful to her. He was sick with cancer or he had depression. All by just looking at their handwriting. That seems somewhat risky, but the young Maryfer would go much further. She would found a sort of empire based on her great presence in the media. But was she truly who she claimed to be? The scandals begin. Marifer started appearing on TV in 2011, and since then her presence seems to have grown exponentially in all Mexican media. Her main base has always been the Today program, where she did everything. From a column specialized in graphology, where she analyzed celebrities and made conjectures about other people's private lives, to a dance contest, where she had heated discussions with the judges. And over time, Maryfer was changing. Initially, she was a solemn professional, giving up to 4 lectures weekly, speaking seriously and calmly. But as interest in her increased, things got quite stirred up. According to Maryfer, someone once approached and pushed her down the stairs as she was leaving a TV studio. She claimed clients requested a graphological study but refused to pay for it, swindling her. Likewise, she claimed to have been the victim of constant and unpleasant media coverage. Despite her claims, Maryfer always appeared to relish media attention, and her appearances on TV became more and more controversial. Celebrity feuds, often stemming from the same source, became a constant in her life. Any prior comment that Maryfer had made in one of her analysis columns? She had a notorious face-to-face shouting match with actress and showgirl Niurka Marcos, leading to a controversial incident. Maryfer had previously analyzed videos posted on social media by Niurka featuring her partner. Maryfer noted that their overly affectionate behavior seemed forced, masking their actual discomfort and distance from each other. When the argument broke out in front of the cameras, Maryfer knew how to make the most out of the fight, but in a way that made the whole situation quite bizarre. At a certain point, heated from the argument, Niurka leaned backwards towards Maryfer and brought his buttocks close to the face of the graphologist. From that point on, the young media personality began claiming she was obsessed with the idea that the actress may have infected her with a disease. She asserted that Niurka's trouser fabric was too thin, and that she believed he could have transmitted the human papilloma virus to her. In response, the media erupted, questioning how she could casually suggest that Niurka was suffering from that illness. And above all, why being a professional was she spreading false information about how this virus is transmitted? That it is only through direct sexual contact or skin to skin. That strange intervention by Maryfer raised some alarms about the seriousness and scientific rigor with which she was handled, as well as the truthfulness of her words, every time she had a microphone in front of her. This generated an immediate reaction on social networks, who began to strongly question the graphologist, who had become a media character based especially on controversy and gossip. But things really got complicated when a doctor influencer directly accused her of being a fraud. On July 14, 2024, Octavio Arroyo aimed to reveal Maryfer's identity on his YouTube channel, Mr. Doctor. Over 86 minutes, he expressed all his doubts about the professional quality of the media graphologist. He started by rightly questioning the seriousness of her specialty. Graphology, if we understand it as the analysis of handwriting and what it has to say about its author. It is a practice that began in the year 1575 with the book Examen de Ingenios for Sciences by Juan Huarte de San Juan. Many authors in the 17th and 18th centuries continued making similar analyses. And although the practice was quite well received by the scientific community at a certain time in the 20th century, today it is seriously questioned. For many critics, including Mr. Doctor but also the British Society of Psychology, graphology is a pseudoscience. They categorize it with other unscientific practices like astrology. Based on this issue, Mr. Doctor began to unfold a series of questions about Maryfer. He suggested that his school offered courses that, for 3,000 pesos, issued a dubious title. He stressed that Maryfer's media statements are complete nonsense. Fallacious conclusions and magical solutions that this woman sells with the sole aim of becoming famous and making money, according to his perspective. In short, a complete and utter fraud. Mr. Doctor's words quickly made a mark, and at the time of this video recording, his accusations were seen by 2 million people. Mr. Doctor's complaint against Marifer instantly went viral, and a large part of the internet community leaned in his favor, pointing out that for some time, something about Marifer's words just wasn't convincing anyone. The straw that broke the camel's back was a supposed weight loss treatment that the graphologist had spread on her networks and claimed had a 100% effectiveness. Essentially, Marifer was claiming that you could lose weight simply by writing the same phrase in blue or purple ink for 21 days. When the case spread, and Marifer became the center of heated debates on the internet, many people remembered back to those old sequences where her mother made similar assertions. Such as you could tell if someone was suffering from a serious illness just by reading their handwriting. The situation was deteriorating for Marifer and her mother. They seemed to have built a large castle of lies over many years, using graphology as an excuse. A castle that was slowly beginning to fall, as if it had always been made with simple playing cards. However, the always controversial and biting Maryfer did not remain silent when Mr. Doctor lashed out at her. True to her style, she quickly devised a counterattack strategy. A strategy that also revealed her relationship with the least expected sectors of Mexico. And that's how our story goes back to the beginning. In the months leading up to the recording of this video, Marifer Centeno's case remained at the top of internet trends. And all Mexican media seemed to go crazy to get any news regarding the legal dispute of the graphologist. And the influencer doctor? Before fully delving into the judicial aspect of this conflict, it's worth noting that in many of those videos, a certainly bewildering journey can be traced based on the things that the media figure has publicly stated. For example, netizens made a very broad selection of sequences where we see Marifer speaking to the camera in costumes and giving advice on seduction. Specifically, Marifer used to talk about how certain gestures and aesthetic decisions could be seductive from non-verbal communication and were effective in capturing men's attention. What many social media users pointed out is that for some of these recommendations, Marifer would dress as a schoolgirl and would say which length a skirt should be to be more provocative. Everything was certainly becoming problematic, and many of the videos were inflating the case on social media. The viewing of this material also started to suggest a certain erratic trait in Marifer's personality. Many people began to doubt the mental health of this influencer, and a question started floating in the air. Was this woman in her right mind? One of the strangest moments regarding her emotional stability occurred at the end of December 2024, when Maryfer herself was exposed to analyzing a video of herself and drawing conclusions in third person, as if she was someone else. In the video, the woman addressed criticisms calling her crazy, noting that her body language did not indicate an unbalanced person. But many internet users pointed out that this was nothing more than a new call for attention to throw more criticism at Mr. Doctor, with whom she currently has a strong legal dispute. Despite being the first to make public accusations, he was ultimately denounced by Marifer herself. The reason? Discrimination and threats. Marifer points out that during her lengthy exposure, Mr. Doctor called her a bitch, asked for her to be fired from her job, and said he would pull her hair. In recent months, demand appears to have run its course. Near the end of the year 2024, both Mr. Doctor and Marifer agreed to settle everything outside of the court and to make a public apology. But recently, that possibility seems to have disappeared. As of recording this, news about conflicts between them is daily. Neither of them seems willing to back down. And this controversy, far from being limited to the purely media sphere, has begun to escalate to unsuspected levels. One of the most striking aspects of the Maryfer case is that the graphologist herself claimed to have provided her work to the National Prosecutor's Office, which investigates police crimes and abuses. According to the woman, in the past she has worked with victims and defendants in real cases. And this opens the door, many believe, to her having well-oiled links with Mexican power, which could benefit her in the lawsuit she filed. In light of this situation, at more than one press conference recently, Mexico's own president, Claudia Sheinbaum, had to respond. Was it true that graphology was formally used to investigate cases and solve crimes? At first, the president was a bit evasive and suggested that graphology is used by experts to determine whether a signature is true or false. But then, she suggested that in some cases, these specialists can also be asked to create a complete profile of the people involved in an investigation. When a journalist mentioned to her that graphology has no scientific basis, the president compared it to the horoscope and emphasized that it is something that is part of the culture. However, regarding the controversial weight loss treatment proposed by Marifer, President Jane Bone stated that this will be investigated because it could jeopardize the public's health. Politics and Marifer have crossed paths before. In January 2024, the graphologist came under criticism for her praises of Xochitl Galvez. During an alleged analysis she made of the gestures of the candidate from the National Action Party, it was termed opportunistic and subjective, or of openly propagating. Marifer later analyzed the signature of the other presidential candidate, the aforementioned and winning Claudia Sheinbaum. About Sheinbaum, Marifer said that she detected a straight, perfectionist, disciplined, analytical person, for whom responsibility and duty come first. But no one believed that this was a real analysis, but rather a way to curry favor with both sides of the political struggle. The question that arises is, how far can a person go in their pursuit of always getting attention? Well, the answers to this are only chilling. The case remains open with ongoing legal developments. Maryfer seems to be in the clear for now. But that could change if any of the lawsuits that have been raised in the media end up succeeding in court. Several journalists, including Lupita Martinez and Claudio de Icaza, were concerned about Marifer's lawsuit against Mr. Doctor. And they point out that this could be a risk to freedom of speech in the country. Diana Luz Vasquez, a writer and activist, has been spearheading a collective complaint against Marifer Centeno's practices. And she has a goal that, if fulfilled, could really put the graphologist against the ropes. What Vasquez proposes is that a law be enacted against the use of graphology in criminal investigation areas, and to put a magnifying glass on the actions that these alleged specialists have developed in the past. The fear that Diana Luz Vasquez wields is that judicial decisions have been made based on these personality readings done by graphologists like Marifer. Had that been the case, one could have, for example, jumped to hasty conclusions, blaming an innocent person or not believing a real victim. It occurs specifically in cases such as sexual offenses or the care and custody of minors at risk. Could graphology have intervened, determining the fates of vulnerable people, but with methods that are not backed by science? Through the social network X, Vasquez publicly asked all potential victims of Marifer Centeno to make their cases public or to contact her, to start driving a legal action together. The idea is to set a precedent, and that graphology is no longer used by the state as a method of proof. Many call this initiative the anti-Maryfer law. Several women's collectives and feminist groups have joined this initiative in recent times. Every day they share videos and comments from Marifer, in which her supposed gesture analysis benefits those accused of all kinds of crimes, especially gender violence and child abuse. In the last days of 2024, Various activists have suggested that Maryfer used her networks as a platform to make irresponsible statements, specifically to re-victimize survivors of macho violence who dared to give their testimony. How much damage did this woman cause? Beyond what is known so far, it is known that this issue is much bigger than we can imagine. What lies ahead in this case? Immediately, the first hearing that will cross paths is set for January 13, 2025, but in Maryfer's courtroom, Centeno and Mr. Doctor. The event was originally planned for November, but the deadlines were extended. For Mr. Doctor, this change of dates benefits Centeno, as it allows him more time to prepare a strategy that he supposes will be manipulating the facts. For now, Maryfer is pretty much removed from social media, as the social reaction was massively against her, and the hashtags in favor of Mr. Doctor have put her in a very bad position. However, the graphologist lawyer has brought a new setback to the matter by claiming that the YouTuber is not obeying the law, as he continues to mention her client on social media, multiplying the hate towards her. She also claims that Mr. Doctor bills millions for each video he makes on Marifer, millions that exceed the fines stipulated by justice. Thus, according to Marifer and her team, criticizing her would be much more profitable than complying with the law. Will the media star's career survive this scandal, or will it be her downfall? Will this serve to unmask Maryfer, or on the contrary, will it be a move that will give her even more fame? Will this skilled graphologist be able to keep reinventing herself? What other tricks will she have up her sleeve? As time goes on, the victims keep being found, and in all of them shines the same motto: the search for justice. And that's it for today's video. As I told you, if you want us to make a second part, write Graphology in the comments. If more than 200 people write that word, we will make a second part and continue analyzing this case regarding what happens in the trial, which is what is coming next. I want to thank each and every one of the Mephisto clan members who appear here on the side, because thanks to them, I know we can continue making these videos. To get early video access and have your name featured, express your interest. 24 hours before the rest, click the join button below and select the second membership, Dark Master, and you'll have access to everything in advance, and your name will appear here on the side. I'm leaving some videos for you to binge watch. With nothing else to say, goodbye. My name is Magnus Mephisto, and we'll see each other next time. Bye bye.